Hey, what's up, guys? Today is the big day that I've been talking about now for 9 weeks. Today's the day that I'm going to talk to you about my business plan. Now, you will see there's a little bit of overlap here in my business plan versus like sort of long term career goals for me, but they just kind of go hand in hand, so bear with me. Now, what you guys might not know is that I'm an Appalachian American, and we are a minority group that it comes from the Appalachian region in America where we generally are sort of disadvantaged in quite a number of ways. So that is what has led me to Ohio because for about the last 100 years, people from West Virginia and Kentucky and rural parts of Pennsylvania, they pour into Ohio and up to like Michigan and some other places that have a lot of businesses and a decent place where you can find a job. So that is why I'm in Ohio, and you'll find out in just a minute why that's important. But let me first tell you a little bit about why I am deciding to do what I want to do. Now, I've talked to you about in past videos about my career and financial goals, but I have decided 7 years ago that I was going to own and manage rental properties. But there are some things that are standing in the way of that. First of all, I've had a really hard time finding a job um, in the 4.5 years after I've been out of college that I could sustain myself, let alone build capital for a business. I've also had some other things go on. Mainly, if it's not finance related, it's I've had some issues going on with my mom, which again I'll make a separate video about. But my point is, there is a huge discrepancy between where I am now and where I want to be. And people think, oh, well, you're never going to get there because you're so far away. And I don't believe that at all. Not at all. I know things aren't going that way right now, but I'm actively working on that. And I absolutely believe, and believe me, I'm a very negative person. I hate that about myself lately that I've been that way. But for the last couple years, I've been a very negative person. But yet, I fully believe that I have no doubt that this is going to happen, no, despite what anybody says. And that's the big thing about this. Being an entrepreneur, starting your own thing, going your own way off the path that everybody else goes, everybody's going to tell you, you can't do that. That's stupid. Like, you're going to regret it. No, you're not. Just do it because you're going to be the one that ends up successful. So, what I want to talk to you guys about today is basically my plan from how I'm going to get from where I am right now to build my business, what my business is going to be like, and where I hope to take that business in the future. So, I am from an area where the industry in which I work does not exist. Now, there are some rental properties, but they're generally just managed by the person who either lives in a separate unit at that place or just directly by the owner. If you live in a city pretty much anywhere outside of West Virginia, you're probably more used to the environment in which I work, where there's a property management company that manages several sites. They have an office on site. You call them up, they take you on a tour of a model. Like, there's a whole industry built around this. Doesn't exist back home, period. So, for one thing, I'm going to be bringing in a new industry to where I'm from, and I'm going to be doing that in a slightly different way because there are no other companies for me to compete against there. I can sort of take the things that I like from here and use them, but a lot of the things I don't like, and I can just sort of reinvent the industry um, and do it in my own way down there. So I am right now paying off a lot of debt. I am not able to meet my basic financial obligations, so it's kind of like hit or miss whether I'm going to do it. And I am, in the meantime, trying to find another job. But long term, I know that I have to build something to get this started. So, um, first of all, the reason that I'm in Columbus, again, is for a job. And I invented a term for this and the mindset behind it. Not everybody who moves here from Appalachia is doing this, but what I do, I call reverse carpetbagging. Now, if you guys know anything about history, In the 1870s and 1880s, Yankees went to the South during the Reconstruction era after the U.S. Civil War, and they took advantage of, basically, they had money, the South was broke. They would go in and buy investments because things were super cheap. They would basically go down there and make money off the state of that economy. I'm doing the opposite. What I'm doing is I'm coming from the South, going to the North and working here. And then, not only does that get me a job, but it lets me take money and invest it back home. So I'm siphoning money from Ohio and sending it to West Virginia. The reason I'm doing that is twofold. Number one, West Virginia is entirely, I don't want to say it's cheap to live there, because after a few years ago when the oil and gas companies came in for the Marcellus Shale fracking, prices did jump a lot on stuff, but it's still a lot cheaper than most places. And so I'm able to make a lot more money here than I would be able to back home. Not just because I can find a job, but even if I found a job in this industry, it would pay, several dollars less per hour than I make here. Plus, Columbus has fairly reasonable housing costs, so it's not that bad for me to live and work here. So what I actually am doing is I'm looking at that area down the road in West Virginia to not only invest in, because let's say I'm able to set aside $10,000 a year. That's not realistic in my current situation, but let's say I have a job in Columbus where I can set aside $10,000 a year. I can buy a house for $10,000 in Parkersburg. Now, it's not going to be a nice house, but it would be one that, is not dilapidated, like you could live in it. For $50,000, I could basically get what I'd consider a mansion. And even like the huge old oil baron mansions that are in our historic district, the highest I've ever seen one listed was $200,000, which is like the price of a basic average home in Columbus. So even though I'm here, it doesn't make sense for me to invest here. I actually need to invest that money back home because it's going to go a lot farther. So not only are rent prices not that much more here in Columbus than they are there, so it's not going to make that much difference whether I'm renting here or renting there. I'm going to be able to, as far as buying a home or a property, do it a lot quicker down there. So the second reason that I'm looking at going down there is my cost of living. Now, I'm going to get a little bit into this in a bit as far as being a digital nomad, but that opens up a ton of possibilities for someone who is a business owner. So this idea of going down there partly is because of my financial situation, partly because it's just a good investment, and partly because I want to do some good down there. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, about why I want my company based out of there rather than Columbus. So I mentioned being a digital nomad, and that is looking more and more attractive to me. You guys know that I have really bad luck with jobs. You know that part of why I'm wanting to be an entrepreneur is so that people can stop saying, no, you're not good enough for this job. You're not good enough for a job that pays a living wage. I'm like, you know what? Screw you. I can do it, perfectly capable, and I'm gonna do it. And that's what I'm doing. So I want to make clear to you guys that the reason that I'm doing this is because not only has it been my dream for a while, but I'm getting increasingly frustrated that I'm not able to even find a job that pays a living wage despite how frugal I am. And therefore I can't make the investments to get into the industry that I want to. So what I am planning on doing as far as being a digital nomad is expanding my YouTube channel. And as this expands, obviously I'm going to have more and more money coming in. Now what you guys might not know is that any money that comes in from my YouTube channel, it goes toward my student loans. And I'm going to continue to do that. However, if I have more and more money coming in every month toward my student loans, then I could reappropriate some of the money that I'm paying now toward my student loans and be able to use that money toward, say, paying my rent, right? So that eventually I'll be able to live basically rent free with the money that I get off YouTube. Over time, and I know it might be years down the road, but over time, I'm going to build this channel into something that's completely sustainable. Where if I didn't, say I get fired one day, well, I'm not going to be devastated because I have a basic yearly salary coming off my YouTube channel, and that's great. That's a great place to be, and I hope that happens sooner rather than later. But what's going to happen is, at that point where I can sustain myself in Columbus on the income that I make from YouTube, I am considering moving back home. If not back home, to a more rural, low-income area somewhere like that. Maybe it'll be rural Ohio. Maybe I'll move out west. I don't know. As long as there's a fast internet connection, which all of West Virginia has 1 gig internet, it's far faster than anything in Ohio, then I'd be fine. There's actually a couple little places down there I'm looking at, because the thing is, I'm a city kid. So living in the country is not going to work for me. Weekend at a cabin, that's great, but not for every day. So I'm actually looking at possibly living in the downtown part of my little town so that it feels urban. Or there's an adjacent, it's just the next county over, their county seat. They actually tore down their entire town square, and I thought about buying part of it, building some stores, and then maybe loft apartments above, and one of them would be mine. So now, like I said, I'm a city kid, and I need to be in sort of an urban area. But it's also that struggle of like big fish, little fish, like big fish, small pond, right? I'm little fish, big pond right now in Columbus, and there's nothing to say that eventually I wouldn't be a big fish in a big pond. But I could pretty immediately become a big fish in a small pond going down there. That's a great feeling. So that's part of it too. And the thing is, you can't really live back home if you don't have, if you're not just independently wealthy, or if you have some sort of business that works remotely. And that's where the digital nomad thing comes in. Because I couldn't move back there and live with cheap rent and stuff because there are no jobs there, right? Like, I can't work 5 hours a week at McDonald's, which would be like my only job option there, and get by. But if I have my YouTube channel, I've already built a basis for it. I'm making money. I've got passive income coming in from that, and then I move there. Then it's a good investment on my part because I no longer have to be in Columbus to be able to make money working at this job and paying higher rent and higher prices for everything. I can move to somewhere cheaper. And there was another side to that too, but I forgot it. You guys know I have terrible memory. But anyway, my point in this is that that is what I'm looking to do, is to headquarter my company in a sort of a really rural place, but in the city part of a really rural place. Now, property management is sort of a new industry down there. There are no property management companies, and I do think that it's going to take a little convincing for people to sell them on the concept, to sell them on why this is a value to them, and to get them to understand what it is. But I do think that I'll be able to do that, and when I do, obviously I'll be the only player in the game for a while, and I think that I'll be able to get a strong foothold there. So I'm going to talk to you guys about, well, I'll just go ahead and tell you why I want to do it down there. You guys know I moved home for a while, and when I moved home, couldn't find a job. That's why I worked at Jimmy John's. I came from a corporate office job in Columbus to terrible job. It was like, well, you work fast food or you don't work at all. That was the only option down there. And I was lucky to get what I got. But I want to be able to pay back the place there that I came from. I know how hard it is to live there, and I know how miserable the people are, and I know just how crushing and depressing it is to be there, not know how to get out, not have any opportunities, and I want to give people that opportunity. No business in their right mind would ever move to West Virginia. And I'm doing it because I see an opportunity, but I also see an area that needs help. And the brand, and I'll hopefully remember to go into this a little bit more, but the brand that I'm trying to build, I call social capitalism. I'm a socialist, so you're thinking, why would a socialist start a business? Well, it's not easy to explain, but I grew up in a capitalist country, and so I have a lot of capitalist ideas and principles. But politically, I'm a socialist. So because of that, that sort of shapes the way that I do business. And I will try to get into that a little bit more here. But my point is, that's part of what I'm doing as a socialist organization, is I'm going into an area and providing jobs. You hear Republicans talk all the time about job creators, and that's literally what I'm doing right now as a socialist. But I'm doing it. I'm bringing in jobs to an area, and I've got some principles about like how I'm going to pay higher wages than normal. I'm gonna, have some pretty cool perks of working there, but I want to bring good jobs to people in that area so that they can get ahead. And I want to stimulate the economy in that area by rehabbing these just desolate homes. We have a lot of just buildings in really bad shape. I want to maybe put my headquarters downtown, buy one of the abandoned skyscrapers downtown, and revitalize our downtown. I want to use some of the money, and not only our tax dollars going into the local economy, but also our I want to be involved. I want our company to be involved in the community, volunteering. I want to donate to the Parkersburg Community Foundation and hashtag Downtown PKB, which is an organization, Mid Ohio Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I really think that this young generation of Parkersburgians, not really sure what we are, that have moved away, which is like 99% of us, if we make that effort to send money home and to locate our businesses back home, we can again see the Parkersburg that our grandparents had, which was, one of the major cities in this country, rather than a city with 20,000 people. And I really do want to pay that back to the place that I came from. So I have some really big plans for that. Part of that social capitalism is I want to actually there's an idea with property management that these companies are in it for the money and they want to screw you over. Now, obviously I am doing this to create a job for myself, but my goal is not to screw you over. It's to be fair. And it's not to be greedy at all. I don't want to get into the details, but I do have some ideas of how to sort of stave that off. But what I want to do is I want to provide good, stable, affordable housing for people. And I haven't measured it out yet to see, where I can cut costs a little bit, like maybe smaller square footage or, a different or sort of a weird area or something like that. But a way to make the apartments affordable but still nice and have the amenities that everyone wants, like a washer and dryer hookup, and a garbage disposal, a washer and dryer, or a dishwasher. I want to be able to provide those basic luxuries that most people back home don't have at an affordable price. Now, of course, I'm going to have some luxury apartments too. I'm going to be all over the board as far as this. But that idea actually came from my mom, who is one of the people that's convinced that, landlords, as they're called down there, are just out to take advantage of people. And that's not what my company is going to be about. So I think over time, we're going to grow a reputation that people are like, oh, actually, this is a good place to live. So, how am I going to do all of this? Well, as you guys know from my video, I quit my job. And as you might not know from the job that I had before that, I have done quite a bit in the property management industry. I actually have managed a brand new multi-million, or like I think it was $18 million property, luxury student housing. Co-managed it. It was my first job in the industry. And then for the next 7 months, I was at New Albany, which is the hottest real estate market in Ohio, at a luxury property where it was this weird situation where the property manager was filling in for the area director, and I kind of like just came there and they were like, okay, you're in charge. And I did the assistant property manager, leasing consultant, property manager, and part of the area director's duties. And in the end of that, I got my boss promoted, and she won an award for best property management or manager in the company. Which I'm still a little salty about that she didn't give me any recognition. But what it did is prove to everyone and prove to me that I'm completely capable of doing this on my own. So when I decided to leave that company, that was basically immediately I came up with a business plan. And I was like, you know what? I am completely capable of doing this myself. Now, the hardest part is going to be to choose a name for my company, but I've already looked into how to incorporate, whether I use a DBA or LLC or an S Corp or how I'm going to do that. I've looked into, how to do this. Basically, I've got some places lined up already that I'm going to manage for people. Most of these are people who are in Parkersburg and are somewhat wealthy, but not super wealthy, like younger wealthy people that are looking to buy their first investment property. And I will be managing for them. These are probably going to be single family homes that I'm managing. I'm going to do it on a fee basis. And what I'm going to do is, there might be a couple other fees I add later, but basically $200 per unit up front, and then 8.5% per month. If it's a $500 per month apartment, it's going to be about $45 or so that I'll make off of each unit. Okay, so no, that's not very much per unit, but it does add up. Now, to give myself, now I can handle all the social media, the marketing, getting business cards, all that. And like I said already, I found that networking is the best way to do this. But I can handle all that stuff myself. I'm good at that stuff. There's some stuff I'll have to farm out, get help with. Like graphic design will be a big one. Website design. But I'm really confident that this is going to take off. And I think that I'm a little worried it's going to take off quicker than I can actually even handle. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be getting this started. Unfortunately, I had this idea a year and a half ago, and there was some stuff that came up, which I'm still sort of dealing with, but most of it's over with. Eventually I'll make videos about it so you guys know. That really just knocked me off track for the longest time. So that's why it's a year and a half old idea that hasn't come to fruition, really. But what I'm going to do, basically, I said, I think 8.25% is actually what I was going to do. I think I told you guys 8.5% of the monthly rent. And now there's one other aspect to this that I want to talk to you guys about. I really like Andrew Carnegie. I grew up in a town that had a Carnegie library. And the new library had actually taken the window from the old library that was a stained glass window of Andrew Carnegie. So I grew up knowing who this guy was. I lived probably like 2 or 3 hours from Pittsburgh, went to the Carnegie Science Center, and later on I joined a fraternity. He happens to be a fraternity brother of mine. And I I know that there were some things that he did that were not good, but there are some aspects of how he did things that I really admire. The philanthropic thing, that's going to be a big part of what I do. And also the way that he made his business profitable by, well, in his case, creating a monopoly. Now, that's not what I'm trying to do. But what he did is say he had his steel mills, right? We He bought the mines that the iron came from to make the steel, and he bought coal mines where they got the coal to power the furnaces, and then he bought the railroads that led between the coal mines and his place, and what it was is he was able to basically increase his profit on all those things because he owned all of those things. And I have a couple of similar ideas. Basically, one thing that is different is back home, I don't think anybody's ever heard of renter's insurance. After working in the industry, though, seeing a couple fires, there's no way that I'm not going to let people not have renter's insurance. And of course, I'm not going to force them to buy mine, but I'll probably give it to them at a discount if they're one of my residents and that. So one of the things is I want to run an insurance agency out of my corporate office, and we're going to sell renter's insurance in-house. Another thing is I'm not only going to own my own properties, which will mostly be very small apartment complexes and duplexes and triplexes and single-family homes. Some vacation rentals too. I want to do that, do some Airbnb, things like that. But I want to do fee-based management. And I'm going to start that out probably first thing before I ever buy my own property. Is I'm going to be calling people and cold calling people who have posted in the bulletin board and on Craigslist. I'm going to say, hey, I see your property's for rent. I see that it's a small home. I run a management company and would be very interested in running that for you. I take 8.25% per month. And what has happened in that area, so many people have moved away. And people inherit these homes, and they're either trying to sell them or they're trying to rent them out. But they're doing it remotely, and they don't know what they're doing. They've never been in the industry before. So I want to offer my services and say, hey, you know what? I understand you inherited this house. This happens all the time. This is what I charge 8.25% per month. You know what? You can just raise the rent that you're asking for 8.25% per month. You still get the same amount of money, and you get me to manage it. And that's the kind of thing that I'm going to do to start out, at least, until the industry catches on in that area. Now, and then the last thing, as far as the Carnegie plan, is basically we're going to build some investment properties as well and renovate others. So I'm eventually going to have my own construction company, and we're not going to just use it for our apartments. We're going to have a full-fledged construction company that goes out and works for other people as a contractor too. Again, just another way to keep costs down. But that, in conjunction with bringing in those jobs, being active in the community, paying a good living wage, I've got some great benefits that I've thought up for my employees that are things that no other company does. The fact that I'm reinventing an industry and just coming up with a completely new thing for that area. I think not only are my employees going to be very happy and well paid, it's going to change that depressing attitude of that area. It's going to allow me to sort of move about freely without being tied down to a job. I'll be able to travel when I want to. I will be able to live cheaply. I can get in a ridiculously nice house or apartment or whatever, and for a ridiculously low cost compared to where it would be in a city. And I really believe that even if I don't stay in that area permanently, this is where I really want to build it. So I am gonna manage properties myself to begin with. I'm going to go ahead and get the CAM and the NALP through the NAA to get my certification to make myself look legitimate. Plus, I have the industry experience, and I've already got my first few properties to lined up, so I can say, well, I'm already managing these. I'm going to do the social media, the marketing, the B2B, and the networking to get this going. And what is it that's going to get me from being able to be where I am until the very beginning of that? Well, that is YouTube. And that was the missing link for the longest time, but I've found it now. It was always, how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? And it was always, I don't know, because I got to pay for a house in cash since student loans destroyed my credit. But then it became, okay, well, before I buy my own properties, I'm going to manage other people's for a fee. But then I realized there was still a gap there between where I am and managing for a fee. So I was like, how do I get there? Thankfully, YouTube is the medium. So thank you guys for all the support. This will be a long process. It might be another 5 years before this is off and running. Hopefully it's a lot sooner, but you guys have been supportive of my ideas and my career goals, even though they're totally off the wall compared to what most people want to do. And I do get a lot of discouragement from my family and other people that think I have big dreams that won't be fulfilled, but they will be, because I've always, since I was a kid, had wild dreams about stuff, and I went and did all of them. I started a fraternity. I started a bowling team. When I was in college, I've played a professional sport for 2 seasons. I have traveled all over the country, where I just randomly drove from Ohio to Florida and lived there for a month and came back for school. Like, the only reason that you can't do cool things is because people tell you you can't and you believe them. So if you have an idea, just do it. Just do it. And don't care what anybody else thinks. They don't know what they're talking about. You can do anything you set your mind to. So anyway, guys, I know that was not organized in any way whatsoever, but I'm just so excited about this idea. And I just know that this is going to be the turning point of my life. And this is something that there is a lot of work to do, but it's something I'm completely capable of, and I just can't wait to get the ball rolling. So if you guys could hit subscribe. Of course, I come out with a video every week now, and I will keep you guys updated on that. Plus, you guys watching this helps me pay off those loans, which helps me get to where I need to be to do this. I'm going to keep you guys along for the journey, both on my finances, just in general in my life, and how this business goes. So please follow me for that. Give the video a like, and if you have your own business, if you're in property management, especially if you did a property management startup, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me about your experiences in your apartment. If you could have anything in a property management company, what would you want it to be? What bad experiences have you had and wanted to get past? Leave all that stuff in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe. I upload every Sunday into Monday, depending on how long it takes to upload, Sunday or Monday. Hit subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.